but it has been historically bad this season. We've got a graphic to show you just how bad it has been, first of all under Erik ten Hag and more recently under Ruben Amorim. 1.15 points per game between the pair. Under Amorim, that drops to 1.05. Presuming Ruben Amorim gets to start next season, Gary, which we all think he will, at what stage is he going to have to show some signs of progress, do you think?
Oh, definitely coming into probably October, November next year, 3 months into the new season, obviously having a transfer window, a proper pre-season, being able to get the players in that suit that sort of quite unique, rare system that he has. I think that's when, obviously, I mean, they can't be anywhere near where they are now. They'd have to be sort of pushing up into that top 6, I think, at the start of next season. So I think there'll be a big overhaul of players in the summer to get what he wants into that squad.
Do you think, and this is, for me, in terms of the squad, when you say overhaul, do you think there'll be a lot of clubs at the moment, considering the form of the players, that will be paying the money that Man United would want for the players?
I think what there'll be is a lot of clubs looking at the talent of the players that they've got, where Manchester United haven't got the best out of those players, and thinking I can get a cheap deal on them. So let's say you look at Højlund, who obviously is having a really tough time, but there's a player in there for a club in Europe somewhere, just like Anthony going to sort of Betis, or Rashford going to Villa, or McTominay going to Napoli. These players are not useless. These players are having a really difficult time at Manchester United. Manchester United has become a graveyard for football players and coaches for the last 10 years. I think there'll be clubs looking at Manchester United's players and thinking, if I can get them into a good environment, into a good team, I actually think I can make something out of them. So that's what Manchester United have got to be careful of.
Do you think it's right, Jamie, that it's been pretty much a free hit for Ruben Amorim? Remember, he didn't actually want the job until the summer.
Yes, I do. But I also think he has a duty of care to a certain extent, where we've analysed Manchester United. There's almost no more to say on them. We've had a go at the players, they're not good enough, and we've had a go at certain aspects of the way the club's run. Absolutely. But there also comes a time when you've got a duty as a manager to improve the players that you have. You can't just keep getting rid of players. Eddie Howe is probably the prime example of that. If you look at players like Joe Linton and you look at Jacob Murphy, if you had said a couple of years ago that they would be in a position that they are, playing incredible football, what Joe Linton's done, Jacob Murphy's on the verge of getting an England call up, you'd say that's not possible.
But would you not say this is a conflated, congested squad that needs overhaul?
Yeah, it does need, but you also have to work with the players that you have. That's your responsibility, improving what you have, because like Gary said, they can't all be totally useless. There are some players there that probably need a little bit of work with their individual play. Jacob Murphy was talking the other day on Sky Sports. He said, I've worked so much on my crossing with not just the manager, with the team behind that, with the coaches. You need to be coached well. You need to be educated on the game. You can't just turn around and say they're surplus requirements, he's rubbish, he's useless. Work with the players you've got, because there will be some in there that just need a little bit of love and care, and to be coached well.
I think, I agree with some of your points there. And I had a chat with former captain of his, Sebastian Quatters, a former teammate of mine here at Liverpool. And he said that, look, the manager, he doesn't want any players with any egos. He wants the players to work hard. If you work hard, you play. If you don't work hard, you don't play. The manager's already said that in the press. But the one thing he did say was things changed when they had a summer and they bought 8 or 9 players. So in the end, he needs players that work within his philosophy, that have the type of, style of play and identity as a footballer that he can get the best out of them. But I do agree that when you do go into a football club and you're not getting players, it's like, is it a bit of stubbornness to go, okay, well, you've got to do what I want you to do and I'm not? Because this is literally the worst Manchester United team since I was born. Like 35 years, they've not performed.
Statistically, it is.
It's like, I've never in my lifetime saw a Manchester United team perform this bad in statistics. Maybe some games they show light where it's like, okay, they look good today, but they're not showing it enough.
It's not just in statistics. They're not very good when you watch them live either, you know what I mean? It's true, but I think Jamie's right. I think you're right. There is a balance here of them having to give Ruben Amorim his head. But if you look at what Arne Slot's done here with Gravenberch, with Curtis Jones, with other players in this squad, you think, I can't believe he's getting that Gakpo. I can't believe he's getting the levels of performance out of these players that he's got this season. He's not added one single player to that squad at the start of the season that's come into the team. And he's made them into champions. I mean, it's incredible. So there is a responsibility, and you think of the players that have been let go that haven't been good enough. They're currently better, some of them, than the players that are there. So the likes of Elanga, the likes of McTominay are now performing at a level that would be good enough to get in this current Manchester United team. Now, I'm not saying that they should get them back, and I'm not saying that they were good enough when they were here, but be careful that you get rid of players and all of a sudden you bring in players who end up being worse.
So Manchester United,
we're trying to sign them back.
Their first step today against Bournemouth, and then if Liverpool get a point, will you join us at the end for the?
No,
for the centre?
The look you gave him then, by the way.
There's no point me coming down here at
Planning
the
a
end.
quick exit.
Well, I think the Liverpool fans probably won't let me get out of that commentary box.
You've got your sunglasses. You can put your sunglasses on.
Get my sunglasses.
Put those on, man. Get them out. You know what I'm saying?
Look at these.
Slip under cover with those bad boys on. Gary.
You just killed David Beckham's glasses brand.
Thank you, mate.
To the first part of Super Sunday then. Manchester United travel to Bournemouth, they're 15th in the Premier League table, but Ruben Amorim insists they can still attract the biggest names to Old Trafford. Darren, is he right?
I'm not so sure. And listen, I'm here to be honest about what my opinion is. I'm not so sure. At the moment, you look at Man United, they're still a huge club, but there are other clubs that provide the opportunity for players to play in the elite European competition at the moment. And let's not kid ourselves, the best players want to play in the Champions League. They want to be in Europe. United are not there at the moment. That's not to say they can't be there. And certainly with the leadership of Bruno Fernandes, there's every chance they could return. We have seen players go from mid-table up to the European places, even challenge for the title. I think Chelsea were 10th the season before Conte arrived and were up there punching their weight in terms of competing for the title. But those clubs were more stable than United are now. And that's the big problem they have. Also, Amorim himself has said, look, I'm not going to go for stardust. I'm going to go for players that fit into my system.
Okay.
And those players might not necessarily be A-list names, but they'll be the sum of the parts that I need for my club. So it does remain to be seen what direction their transfer business will take this summer. And just because they might not be getting A-list names doesn't mean they won't have a chance of punching their way higher up the table, but I don't think it'll be the A-listers that the bigger clubs have got the luxury of being able to look at.
Yeah, and it's interesting about that because I think Pep Guardiola always used to say that, you know, he doesn't necessarily go for the starters. He goes for a player that fits into what he needs. And sometimes he could have that person that comes in and he thinks they're not right for me. No, thank you. Even though they could be, you know, like you say, an A-lister. Matheus Cunha, is he an A-lister? I mean, Wolves player, very keen to go to Old Trafford, it would seem. So.
Yeah, I think if you've got somebody who is keen and wants to be part of it, that's a good start. Then you've got the talent of Cunha and what he's done at Wolves over the years. He's consistently got experience at the top level in the Premier League. So again, that's another plus. People say sometimes about, you know, and point to the sending off, say a couple of those he's had, and I don't know. I think he's got a bit of personality and character about him that is needed for a club like Manchester United, because part of the thing when you're recruiting for the Manchester Uniteds and the Liverpools and the Real Madrids of this world is you have to be able to cope with the expectation and everything that comes with that. To me, he comes across as a player who can do that. He seems to have a very strong character. I think that's come across, and certainly I'm only judging this by a couple of interviews I've done with him over the years, and I came away very impressed by the way he talked and the way he saw football, and you know, only really judging it on that, but combined with what he's done on the pitch and the experience in the Premier League, I think all of those things come together. I can see it as a really shrewd signing, especially in an area of the pitch, and you think of Amorim's system, that he would fit in nicely, and I think Bruno Fernandes a lot of the time when he does come across as frustrated is maybe because the team's not quite clicking, and quite often maybe to him it feels like he is doing a lot of it on his own. Well, this is another very exciting attacking talent that may just take the pressure off him as well. So I can see that being a really shrewd, smart signing.
Darren, are they built to win the Premier League? Premier League? Europa League. That's where their chance at the moment, not the Premier League. Sorry, didn't want to get Manchester United fans excited there. Look, for all their faults, though, they have won the FA Cup and the League Cup in the last 2 seasons. So is this a team that you can see winning the Europa League this time around?
If they play like they did in the first, 70 minutes of that quarter-final tie, yes. If they play as they did in the subsequent 20, 25 minutes, no. But then if they can regain the fire that they finished that tie with, yes. So that's a kind of shortened way of saying it depends which Manchester United turn up. And the problem with their season is that you just don't know. Bournemouth could become the 6th Premier League team to complete the double over them this season. Now, you've got to go back to the 1930s for the last time that many teams kicked Manchester United around. And that's the problem that they have. They've got the individual quality in that team, in that squad even. But in terms of the defensive collective responsibility and discipline, that's not there. In terms of the goal-scoring power, that certainly isn't there. And that's why this summer is such a crucial one for Manchester United as a club. Not just Amorim, United in terms of their direction as a club.
You talk about that Lyon game. I mean, is that a platform, do you think, for Ruben Amorim? Because sometimes you need a moment, don't you, as a manager or anything, any walk in life where you go, take us back to that moment, you know, what was going through their minds. You know, it was an extraordinary night, you know, for the neutrals just watching. It was a magnificent game to watch, actually, the ebb and flow. So is that perhaps the platform that Amorim needs now to say to his players, you are capable of this?
Yeah, because a moment like that can galvanise a squad.
Yeah.
It can just give players the belief that actually this is going in the right direction. Some good can come of this, and it's also very good for when you think of the build-up to the Lyon tie, with everything that went on with Onana and Matic and all of those kind of things. It's also a way that kind of helps build an us v them scenario that all managers want to build, and all champions over the years and all teams that have won big trophies have had.
Yeah.
They've had that air of invincibility about them, and maybe Manchester United are a long way off that, but I think a moment like that can just, you know, give them that belief, give them that energy. I mean, it will help if they go on and win the trophy, but even if they don't, and what they do in the summer is crucial, but if they pull all that together with a smart summer building and maybe a positive end of the season, then who knows, it can change. We've seen Darren mention some of the examples. Things can change quickly season by season.
I wonder how many of their players would be in a team of the year. I'm not sure many would make it, you'd have to say, but Ian Ladyman in the Mail has gone sort of one better, hasn't he, and said that actually Bruno Fernandes should be deserve to be the player of the season for the Football Writers Award. What are your thoughts on that?
I like this piece because it does what all good columnists, and Ian's one of the best, do. That they make you think, they make you consider it. And he says, look, the player of the season generally tends to come from the teams that have won something. But he believes, in his opinion, it's about influence. I'll just read you a little bit of his piece. He says, I always think there's one thing that sets great players apart from very good ones. It's levels. It's much easier to play well in a team that's on a good path. Much harder to keep your levels high when teammates are letting theirs fall. And that's the argument on which he builds this column. And he's right to say that Fernandes has maintained a really good level and been a real leader in a side where the numbers have been horrific for Manchester United this season. So there is a case to be made for him. Set against that, it's hard to make that case against Salah, who has been pivotal in Liverpool winning only their second Premier League title in 35 years. And he's had the most goals and assists in a 38-game season. So you really pays your money and takes your choice. But I think as far as Ian is concerned, he's made a few people think with this column.
It definitely makes you think. And if you pulled Bruno Fernandes out of that Manchester United team and put him in one of the more complete teams, or at a different stage of their development, if you like, if you put him in a Liverpool team or an Arsenal team, or even Aston Villa, Man City, Chelsea, any of the teams up in the Champions League places, he would be, he's such a good player. Or even in a completely new Manchester United team, if it happens next season, if they get enough to turn their fortunes around, he can be even more of a force. So it does get you thinking about where they would be without him. Some of the moments that he's produced and match-winning moments that he's had this season are just times when he's done something outside the norm that have helped his team. So imagine him in a team that's actually functioning well. That could be a scare, and that's when he maybe will actually win the awards. But I think in this case, Darren's made a good point. You always find, as much as you consider someone like him, you always feel bad if you don't actually think, you don't give it to someone like Salah, given the numbers that he's racked up this season, and his team's about to win the league.
If Salah doesn't win it this year, he'll think, what do I have to do to win this award?
Yeah.
It just would be crazy for my money.
In a word, and I mean a word, Manchester United, Europa League, are they going to win it?
No.
That was a word. I'll give you a word as well. Yes or no?
I think it'll be either Manchester United or Spurs. I think the way they see it.
That's more than one word.
That is. So I can't. No.
What, who knows?
What, Vicky?
Yes.
See,
See, and look at me. How well do I behave? One word, I said, and I do one word. My family are watching. They're all Manchester United.
Super Sunday kicked off with Manchester United travelling to face Bournemouth. United, sitting 15th in the Premier League table, are in rough shape. Ruben Amorim still insists that the club can attract top players to Old Trafford, but Darren isn't convinced. He points out that while United are still a massive name globally, the lack of Champions League football is a serious obstacle. Players at the top of their game want European competition. Right now, United simply can't offer that. However, there's still hope. Darren mentions that teams can rise quickly. Chelsea, for instance, went from 10th to title contenders under Conte. The big difference is stability, something United are sorely lacking. Amorim himself has said he's not chasing star names, but players who fit into his system. That might mean smart signings rather than A-listers, but that doesn't necessarily mean failure. There's a chance to build something solid, even if it's without superstar signings. Interestingly, this fits with Pep Guardiola's philosophy too, finding players that fit, rather than chasing headlines. One player United are targeting is Wolves' Matheus Cunha. Darren thinks it could be a smart move. Cunha has experience, resilience, and the character needed to thrive under Old Trafford's massive spotlight. He's someone who could relieve pressure from Bruno Fernandes and offer a bit more attacking flair. When asked if Manchester United are built to win the Premier League, the answer is no. Their best shot is in the Europa League. They've had flashes of good football, especially in their quarter-final tie against Lyon, but inconsistency is their biggest enemy. If the good side of United shows up, they can make a real push. If not, history could repeat itself, and it wouldn't be pretty. Bournemouth could even complete the double over United this season, something that hasn't happened to this extent since the 1930s. It highlights how deep United's problems run. Individual talent isn't enough without collective discipline and consistent goal-scoring power. Turning to Ruben Amorim's future, the panel agreed that progress must be seen by October or November next season. A full pre-season, new signings that fit his system, and proper preparation should leave no excuses. United must be climbing back into the top 6, or else tough questions will be asked. A summer overhaul is clearly needed. Gary mentions that while clubs might not pay top dollar for United's struggling stars, they'll definitely see value in players who might just need a better environment. Højlund, Antony, Rashford, none are useless, but United have been a graveyard for players over the last decade. Jamie Redknapp emphasized that Amorim also has a duty to improve the players he inherits. Coaching is key. Not every player needs replacing. Sometimes they need better development, much like what Eddie Howe did with Newcastle players like Joelinton and Jacob Murphy. Amorim must balance building his squad and improving what he already has. There's talk that Amorim's philosophy, hard work above star power, could change the culture, but the rebuilding project is massive. The club is at its lowest point in 35 years by some measures, both statistically and in terms of performance on the pitch. Comparisons are made with Arne Slot at Liverpool, who managed to transform players without major signings. Amorim will have to show similar coaching quality. The panel warns that United must be careful not to get rid of players who could thrive elsewhere, only to replace them with worse options. Finally, there's some debate about individual accolades. Ian Ladyman from the Daily Mail argued that Bruno Fernandes deserves the Football Writers' Player of the Year award, not because United are winning, but because of his consistent leadership and influence despite the chaos around him. While Mo Salah might statistically deserve it more, Fernandes' ability to maintain high standards in a struggling team made a strong case. When asked simply if Manchester United will win the Europa League, opinions were split, but the majority were skeptical. As the first step today against Bournemouth loomed, the panel closed on a light note, with jokes about needing sunglasses to avoid United fans.